Ladies and gentlemen, we're next turning from a senior statesman to a senior former military leader. Brigadier General David Phillips is the former commandant of the U.S. Army Military Police Corps. After attending the United States Army War College, Brigadier General Phillips served as the Director of Security for the Army staff at the Pentagon. In 2002, Brigadier General Phillips assumed duty as the commander of the 89th Military Police Brigade and the Installation Provost Marshal. While in Iraq, the brigade provided protection for the 3,400 members of the MEK detained at Camp Ashraf. It's so important to have individuals like Brigadier General Phillips, individuals like Colonel Wes Martin, who know and have worked closely with the individuals detained at Camp Ashraf, and we're grateful that he's here today to share his observations and reflections with us.
Distinguished guests, friends, but most importantly, those at Camp Liberty right now who I hope will get to see the film of this event here. I'm Brigadier General David Phillips, and I've served our country for my entire adult life, with close to 5 years in combat, and recently retiring as the Commandant of the Military Police Corps. I've known the people of the Iranian resistance since they were first detained 12 years ago. Unlike those within our own government, whose actions were complicit in creating Camp Liberty, a concentration camp-like prison, I personally do know the people of the Iranian resistance. I know them as a group. I know them as individuals. Unfortunately, several hundred of those individuals are no longer alive due to the utter failure of fulfilling the promise this nation made to them, to each and every one of them, to protect them. They believed us. They believed we would protect them from harm, like we promised to. Unlike the current fundamentalist regime controlling Iran, those imprisoned at Camp Liberty believe in freedom and justice. They believe in democracy. Yet our administration continues to attempt to negotiate with the Iranian mullahs, using the people imprisoned at Camp Liberty as human bargaining chips. It sounds insane, but we are actually negotiating with those who oppose democracy and everything this country stands for, while being complicit in the imprisonment and silencing those of the Iranian resistance who believe in freedom and democracy. Numerous allegations are used to justify why the people of the resistance at Camp Liberty are languishing under horrible conditions, and they're tormented day and night by their Iraqi guards under their evil Iranian puppeteers. We turned our backs on the members of the resistance as we moved them from their home of many years at Camp Ashraf to a prison camp in western Baghdad. Ambassador Dan Fried, representing the State Department, and Martin Kobler of the United Nations promised that the members of the resistance would only remain at Camp Liberty for a few short months as a way station while they were processed to safe havens outside of Iraq. I was on a conference call and listened along with many other distinguished American leaders while Dan Fried stated there will be a robust U.S. Embassy presence at Camp Liberty and a plan to evacuate the members of the resistance if danger arises. Yet, there is a near non-existent U.S. Embassy presence. Only on rare occasions do they even set foot at Camp Liberty, just 5 times in over 2 years, though they have to drive past Camp Liberty every day between Baghdad International Airport and the U.S. Embassy complex. I guess our embassy personnel believe what you don't see, you can't be held accountable for. Yet we as a nation are accountable for the conditions and treatment that the people at Camp Liberty are suffering, the men and women there. We forced them there under the threat of imminent attack if they remained at Ashraf. I challenge those who are making the allegations on why they should be kept there and why we're not doing more to let them into North America, into the United States. Have those making those allegations ever actually been to Camp Ashraf or Camp Liberty? Or have they even ever met a member of the Iranian resistance or the MEK? Well, I've met them. I've lived in their camp. I've shared meals with them. I've provided their protection in the early years of their captivity. I've walked among them, and I have firsthand experience with the members of the resistance, and they are not a cult. They are not a terrorist organization, nor are they enemies of the United States. They're a determined resistance of highly educated men and women who have dedicated their lives to oppose a sadistic regime controlling Iran. I've personally been accused of going native, a victim of the Stockholm Syndrome, of not understanding the strategic picture. Well, I haven't gone native. I'm not suffering any syndrome, and I have a clear understanding of the tactical, operational, and strategic picture of this situation. And the people of Camp Liberty are being vilified, tormented, and murdered in order to placate the mullahs of Iran. They're really the pawns in this entire life and death struggle with the fundamentalists in Iran. I served over 30 years in the United States Army and am well-versed in identifying the enemy. The people of Camp Liberty are no enemy. It is the fundamentalist regime in Iran that is the real enemy of state. I was recently in Albania meeting with the Prime Minister, the Minister of Interior, the President, and the leader of the opposition party. I was there with several distinguished Americans, Tom Ridge, Senator Torricelli, Colonel Wes Martin. We were there to discuss accepting additional refugees from Camp Liberty. We were stunned when the former Prime Minister of Albania, who is the current leader of the opposition party, said quite candidly in a meeting with the four of us, it was the U.S. State Department who initially set the limit of only 200 because they were concerned any more might upset Tehran. We were prepared to take them all. Since when saving the lives of those you promised to protect less important than upsetting the mullahs of Iran? Go ahead, let's upset the mullahs. Let's save the men and women who are imprisoned at Liberty, whose only crime is believing in equal rights, democracy, freedom, gender equality. I would personally upset any dictatorial regime in the name of democracy and human rights. The United States administration wants to close Guantanamo Bay. I've been there. There's a fewer than 120 detainees there. Yet, our same administration, our same nation, were complicit in the inhumane conditions and imprisonment of over 2,500 men and women of the resistance at Camp Liberty. Interestingly, the people who are suffering at Camp Liberty are there in order to appease the Iranian mullahs. And they are the same people who have a political platform of a non-nuclear Iran. Well, here's what I propose. I'm just a soldier. Let's publicly acknowledge the Iranian resistance 10-part platform on gender equality, freedom, democracy, and a non-nuclear Iran. Now, wouldn't that send a strong message to the fundamentalists and the Iranian mullahs and show that the United States does not negotiate with those attempting to get weapons of mass destruction? There are many people in here today who have dedicated their entire lives to supporting and defending the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. I'm one of them. I am publicly stating for the record in this sacred hall of democracy that we are on the verge of a huge crime against humanity, and only this country can prevent it. We must act now before it's too late for the remaining survivors at Camp Liberty. failure to do anything or continuing to turn our backs on our promise of protection condemns those men and women to certain annihilation. In June 2004, I took a senior American commander to Camp Ashraf. We did this very quietly. He went around and was stunned with what he saw. He asked me, "Why are we keeping them detained? Explain that to me. I don't get it." I didn't have a morally justifiable answer. I didn't have an answer to that question in 2004, and I don't have one now. Why are we keeping them detained? Why aren't we fulfilling our promise to protect them? We won't be able to justify our inaction in the days, months, and years to come by stating, had we only known there was this danger. Well, we do know there's a danger to these people, and a crime against humanity is imminent, and only we can prevent it. We need to act now, and if we're not going to protect the people of liberty, give them a means to protect themselves. Let's strive to get the people out of Camp Liberty now, before it's too late. Thank you.